welcome back to Doom 2. It's the O of Destruction, where we left off last time, 1,000 years ago.
Thousands of years ago.
Thousands of years ago. It's, this video is kind of, to set expectations. It's kind of a weird video. I recorded it in chunks. And so this first chunk that takes up about the first half of the video or so, I haven't watched since I recorded it, so I don't remember if this, is good footage or not. I guess we'll find out together. Because it's staying in. There's no changing it at this point.
What version of Doom were you running for this?
So, the version of Doom that I've been running for this Let's Play has been Crispy Doom, primarily. I ran the first episode of Doom 1 on Chocolate Doom, and then when I was watching it back, I was like, the resolution's a little... I could bump up the resolution and I wouldn't lose too much fidelity, but otherwise I like to play as authentic as possible. Authentic being in finger quotes. This doesn't really matter. But yeah, I play Crispy Doom just because it's really, really close to the original, while still allowing... There's a couple of things that you can turn on and off. For instance, you can uncap the frame rate, which is something that I have not done. I still play at 35 frames per second, because I love it when the game looks like shit. But I did up the resolution a little bit, just mostly for the video's sake. If it were just me playing, I would still be playing at like 240p or whatever the original Doom runs at. I think it's like 380 or something. It's a weird resolution.
Which level is this? Number-wise?
I think it's map 10 or 11? Or something like that.
Alright, so we still have a decent amount of Doom 2 left.
Yeah, this video will cover... The first video covered a third, this will cover about a third, and then there will be another video that should be the last one. Oh my god. It's the Archvile.
Oh my god, we're back again.
Exactly, dude, exactly. Portrayals, boys. I just hit the map and I couldn't see what it was, and also the audio is horrible.
Yeah,
on this version of the video for some reason. Yeah, hopefully it won't be as bad in the final version. I don't know why the video editing software I use when I export videos, sometimes the audio just fucking dies on me, and it's only with these old school Doom videos, so I think it has something to do with how quiet I record. I should probably record it a little louder, but I don't know. I don't care. It's a problem not worth solving right now. Because in the Doom 2016 videos, it never did that annoying crispy ass audio sound thing. And here's the fucking weird part. When I use the video editor to export the audio only when I do the audio finish on these videos, the audio export is fine. It's only when I export it as a video file that it fucks up the audio. So it's very confusing. Anyways, that's the fun technical aspects of making these videos. That sometimes they just don't... sometimes technology just doesn't work, and it's for no good reason. It's totally unidentifiable.
Glad we're doing the cha-cha or whatever right now.
Yeah, this is the song that I think
This fucking grocery store music.
The grocery store music. It's not this song, it's another song that might be later in this video. But a lot of Doom 2 music, to me, sounds like the Sex and the City theme song, kind of. weirdly.
You're not wrong.
Like, it's very, like... There's a lot of whimsy in Doom 2 for some reason. I don't know what Bobby Prince was on, but he was really feeling...
He was watching Sex in the City. Well,
he was watching Sex in
writing
the City.
writing Doom 2.
Doom in the City.
That would be amazing.
Would it?
Yeah. And then this guy I slept with turned out to be a pinky the whole time.
It's so true.
I watched the hell out of Doom in the City.
Yeah. Maybe it would be good, actually. It is, I don't know. Doom 2 is an interesting game to go back to, because you and I have recently had many excursions into a lot of the WADs that were released after Doom 2 had been released. I mean, we did Final Doom. I was going to say much later. I was like, no, Final Doom came out only a year later, but beyond that, like, the rest of them have been years later. Like, we've gone through No Rest for the Living and Legacy of Rust and Sigil and, you know, everything that comes pre-installed on the Doom 1+2 re-release on Steam. And it's just funny going through some of that stuff because, for instance, with Final Doom, the game is at like and to be fair, we're also playing it co-op where they also, you know,
go crazy.
They go a little crazy, yeah. So I was gonna say that, like, Final Doom really ratchets up the, like, amount of everything. It's just like looking at Doom 2 now, it feels very quaint and very straightforward. It's not particularly difficult. And then also looking at it from the perspective of more modern WADs, it's like very kind of crude and archaic. I mean, the level design is super abstract, and they're not attempting to create any, like, there's some good visuals, some interesting visuals, but it's not like they're trying to create a landscape per se.
Yeah.
They aren't really interested in detailing outside of, like, what's relevant for player information, you know? Not to say that it's not, like, obviously they had plenty of artistic stuff in mind, like, but I do feel like it favors the gameplay first and foremost over trying to set the scene.
Oh, totally. I think that's sort of an issue I've always had with the Doom games is they begin pretty abstract, like the first level called Hangar, I'm pretty sure doesn't have an actual hangar in it.
Right.
And, yeah, like every level has sort of felt that way, and it only gets more abstract. Like Doom 2 kind of mimics Earth, but only kind of. Like level design at first.
Yeah, it's supposed to take place, like a large chunk of the middle part of the game is supposed to take place in the city. In some city that's not named on Earth. And nothing looks like a city, really. I mean, we'll get to the Sandy Peterson city level. And I mean, I guess it kind of, in a very, again, a very abstract sense, it resembles a city. It's got streets and buildings, but, like, it doesn't look like any damn real city I've ever seen.
Yeah, like none of the apartments they have look like actual apartments. I don't even know if they're supposed to be apartments.
They're just buildings filled with stuff. Sometimes it's a building with one room that has no other exit. I mean, we'll get there when we get there, but, like, if you try to take the world that's being built by this game seriously, I think you're... it's the wrong way to look at it. Not to say, but I understand where you're coming from specifically about it being sort of an issue, because it's not a game about story, really. I guess it's a game that has a story in it, but it's really weird. And when they try to sort of put a story into it, I don't know that it always works, you know?
Oh, sure.
Like Doom 3, Or even like, some of the later, like Doom Eternal stuff. I mean, we'll get there eventually one day. I can talk about my
point
hatred of that story.
That I've played Doom 1 and 2 through a few times now, but I still never can commit anything to memory. And maybe it's just because I was younger.
That's interesting.
But GoldenEye levels, I can still remember every detail of most of the levels in those games. I still know where everything is. And I'm wondering, because I've watched a few documentaries about the building of GoldenEye, a lot of their game level design was actually the reverse, where they did set first, gameplay second, where they needed the level to have coherency before they added anything else. And I wonder if that helped somehow, where things just sort of resemble what they're supposed to, and so I can already intuitively know how they work or where I need to go. And I've just kind of wondered that, when it comes to first-person shooters, why I have a harder time with abstract levels that are sort of like this, where they're built more like Super Mario levels. I can't really remember what's in them. And I just wonder if that's a memorization thing for me personally.
Yeah, because many of Doom's levels I have sort of no problem navigating or remembering. I say many. There are a couple where texture work might be the same, and so that's kind of I get mixed up in where I'm supposed to go because things look similar. But otherwise, I feel like there are better and worse versions of this for Doom, but at least in Doom 1 and in Doom 2, I feel like there's pretty good signposting. Speaking to whether or not, no, the game doesn't portray realistic locations that are meant to mean anything. But in its own internal way, I think it is, like you said, I think it is sort of a an issue that you have with the game more than an issue that the game has with you, so to speak. I think that yeah, for whatever reason, you're just better at navigating spaces that have some sort of realism to them. Because I'm thinking, and there are a lot of maps that I can think of and sort of remember how they feel, but a lot of them, if I'm gonna be honest, don't come from single-player games. Multiplayer first-person shooter maps, I can run circles around in my head. Some, in Doom, there are some levels that I can think of that are like that, but honestly, not many. Not because I think they're too abstract. I still know where I'm going when I'm playing them. But just, that commitment to memory for me, it really... when there's some competitive edge, I guess that part of my brain kicks in and is better at remembering stuff than if I'm just playing it for my own entertainment. I feel like if I was a speedrunner and I speedran Doom, I would have all these fucking memories committed, or all these maps committed to memory. But since I don't, I've never had to. It just doesn't. It doesn't filter through my memory like that. I don't have issues navigating these maps, but I also don't have them committed to memory. And in fact, you will notice this, because in many points in this video, I will have to speed things up because I don't know where the fuck I'm going. It does happen. But typically when I do remember where I'm going, I don't have to do that.
If we ever hit rock bottom, we should commit to memorizing TNT and Plutonia.
I would be down to play all that stuff again for recording purposes at some point, but I don't know that I would.
You know which level I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah.
Oh, dear listeners, you're in for a treat when we get to that.
I mean, that's a ways away.
Oh, if only they could have been there the first time we experienced it. What a magical, transformative experience.
I do think there is. I struggle sometimes when I am thinking about how I want to make these videos, because I think the post-commentary angle really works for talking about a game that sort of requires a little bit more like commitment from playing, because there is such a thing as like I know you have experience with this, although it's been a long time, playing Dark Souls, where like when you're playing a game and trying to actively have a conversation, you can only do one or the other, really.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty difficult to do both at the same time. That said, I do think that there's the sort of authentic, like, first reaction experience is also like something worth capturing, if at all possible. So it's just this weird back and forth that I've always had with, like, how do I want to do this? Do these videos? How do I want to make them? And so far, it's just been like, I'll over prepare, and then I will realize that I didn't need to over prepare, and so at some point, I don't know exactly when this happened, but I'm sure if you go back and watch the Doom 2016 videos, you'll see it. There is like a moment where I just kind of give up, and I don't know when that is. And I don't mean to say it in like a negative way. I think this kind of format necessitates me not pursuing perfection, but it's just funny. So I was really committed. I think if you go back and you watch that first video, that's probably the video, that first Doom 2016 video, I mean, is probably the first one where, like, you can really see... I'm, like, interrupting you because I want to talk about the game. I'm like, no, I have to talk about this part. And then at some point, I'm just like, the conversation is probably more important than the game, which is kind of a fucked up thing to say. Because I don't want to step on these games, but I think it's sort of an inevitability is that you kind of do. This is getting really meta. This is getting really abstract.
Super meta. We're about to enter the Black Lodge.
Yeah, we should just be talking about Doom 2, and here I am talking about the philosophy of video production and Let's Play.
Who killed Doom Palmer?
See, that's what Doom needs less of. We don't need a murder mystery in Doom.
No.
And that's where we're going.
Oh, no.
I mean, not literally, but I'm just saying, We've entered the zone where now these games need to have plots where things happen.
Apparently. A Doom guy needs to speak in a very John Wick fashion now. When he was actually much cooler not talking at all.
Yeah.
I remember seeing things about how Doom Guy speaks in Doom Eternal. I'm like, oh, what are they going to do with that? And then I heard him speak a couple of times. I'm like, oh, they don't do anything with it at all. What a bummer.
Well, yeah. Like you were saying, they present it to you in a way where they say, this thing is going to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, the only reason they said it was going to happen was so that I would go watch it, or play it, or whatever, and see that it happened. It's all a gimmick. It's a marketing gimmick.
Yeah. What really bugs me is that he speaks in the flashback sequence. And I'm like, okay. But he never speaks before that. And he speaks, like, maybe one more time in Ancient Gods? I can't really remember. But it's just, and he also sounds like the kind of guy that I wouldn't imagine him sounding. It's all just very strange.
Yeah, I mean, he just sounds like a dude.
Yeah, he just sounds like a dude, and that's the worst part, is like, you know what makes Doom guy abnormal is he never speaks and he just kills demons. It's like the moment he shot out of the womb, he's had like a chainsaw in one hand at least. And then to take that away from him by having him say, I gotta take a shit in a little bit, is just like, excuse you? What did you just say?
I don't think that's the line.
That's not the line, but my point is that the line is about as important as him saying, I gotta take a shit.
Yes, well...
No, he says rip and tear, because that's the slogan of the franchise, and it was in that comic. Get it?
Yeah.
That's about it.
He doesn't actually... I'm now forgetting the line. He doesn't actually... I'm also realizing now that I'm going to have to put a spoiler warning for Doom Eternal on this video. Not that it matters, but it's fine. No, but the line isn't...
We will not put a warning on for spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, however.
No, of course not. God, no.
From a fucking year ago.
Well, more importantly is I'm not planning on Let's Playing Deadpool and Wolverine at any point. Not that I think that story spoilers matter for Doom, which is why I'm only going to put a warning and not, like, cut this out, because who gives a fuck. Anyways, I was going to say, I don't think the line is actually... He doesn't actually say rip and tear, right? He says something that's from the comic, but it's not the rip and tear line. I could be wrong. Maybe it is the rip and tear line. I thought was it the huge guts line? No, I don't think they've ever said that out loud. I don't remember. Anyways, you're right. It was pointless. And then remember, he says no in Tag 2.
Yeah.
In Ancient Gods 2, he says no. It's just like Darth Vader at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Exactly.
They're very similar pieces of media. I'm not kidding, and also I think that Hugo Martin would probably take that as a compliment. And I guess it's not necessarily meant as an insult, but... You know, it is what it is.
It's too late to go back now, they've done it.
It's far too late to go back now. Doom is now sort of in this... I mean, it's always been its own sort of pastiche, but it is now, like... a pastiche of other hyper-masculine media pieces. It's very He-Man-esque. It's very Arnold Schwarzenegger in tone now.
Yeah.
Which I don't, you know, not to say that there's no Arnold in Doom 1 or Doom 2, like, in terms of spirit, but it is much less of that than, you know, a more... I don't know, Bruce Willis-esque action hero, you know. It's over the top, sure, and you are mowing down hundreds of demons, don't get me wrong, but, you know, in the new games, you go from hundreds to thousands, okay? The increase is exponential.
Who was the guy in Dread and...
Carl Urban?
Yeah, Carl Urban.
And
you know what?
He was in Doom.
Yeah, that's my point. Is I was just like, you know what? I think they kind of nailed it with having Carl Urban be the actual protagonist of Doom. He's very good at being the, like you said, the everyman Bruce Willis nature, and that's who Doom Guy is. He's the guy who punches his commander in the face because he was told to fire on civilians. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger would have wasted those civilians. I've seen Predator.
That's true. I do think,
I've seen Terminator.
That's sort of the thing about Doom Guy, is that he is, in my mind as well, he is sort of this everyman, like, perspective where he's not supposed to be juiced out of his mind, in my mind. Like, he's muscular, don't get me wrong, but he's still just, like, running, the word wits comes to mind. He doesn't have the brawn, he has the wits. When you play Doom, you play it fast, you don't play it hard, you know? If that makes any sense.
You gotta do it John Wick style, you gotta play with finesse.
Yes, yeah, okay, fair enough. The only thing that I would say is different is that John Wick has, under correct circumstances, it's mostly like a headshot and he's done. And, most demons are just kind of too tanky. If I could pop a head in Doom, that would be, then I would feel like John Wick. Otherwise, it's more just like, the unbridled fury, that's,
Yeah, it's a bit more die-hardy in Doom.
Yeah.
Where you gotta pay attention to your ammo.
Yeah, well, again, John Wick is always reloading, so, I mean, the comparison is apt. Or not, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I think it's apt because it represents the scrappiness of having to pick up ammo on the battlefield. Though I suppose some purists would say Doom Guy never has to reload his guns. I don't care. Why am I arguing with straw men?
That aren't even present.
Yes.
I feel like Doom Guy's sort of interesting, though, because he transcends. Like, he is the everyman, but at the same time, he's so mad that he just can't stop killing demons, and he just keeps going into the strangest of demon dimensions just to keep killing demons.
Yeah, that's true. But in a weird meta way, he represents the player's desire to play the game. You want to kill the demons. You want to see what's behind every secret wall. You want to see the interesting locations and whatever the game has to offer. But you have to be doing it through the eyes of Doom Guy. And so there's a really weird, sort of interesting emergent aspect of the storytelling that has happened since Doom 2016, where Doom 2016 is very deliberate about not caring about the story via Doom Guy, right? Doom Guy doesn't care about the story because the story's always the same. The answer is always demons, and he's always pissed off about it. He doesn't actually care. But then they have kind of lost the plot on that a little bit, and they no pun intended, but like they keep putting plot in, and then Doom Guy still doesn't care about it, but like you're forced to sort of watch it as a player so that you have context for what's happening. I guess you could skip the cutscenes if you wanted, but I never wanted to skip any of the cutscenes in Doom 2016. That's because they were handled with that sort of finesse of like, the character and the player melding into one. 5% health here.
Yeah, what's going on?
Insane. This is the worst gameplay you've ever seen. I do, like I said at the top, the first half of this video I didn't watch back. I probably should have re-recorded a lot of it, to be honest with you, but like we're in the passing grade territory, like I said in the last Doom 2016 video we did. This is my rough equivalent of a C, if you were grading these. So like I have proven myself with A's and B's in the past. I am trying to get to the end of the semester with a passing grade. It's not an F. The video's coming out, people. You can't say I didn't do anything. Anyways.
I was talking to myself the other day about comparable things between Doom and Diablo, and now I really wish I had taken the time to write it down, because I can't fucking remember what the hell I was thinking.
I mean, there are demons in both of them, that's true.
Yeah. But I just remember, like, key differences being, like, I don't know, like, Diablo being more focused on the horror aspect of it all. And Doom, like, yeah, it's got some horror in there, but it wants... Its aesthetic is more colorful than Diablo. Like,
yeah,
Doom has way more color in it, where Diablo is way more focused on grays and browns.
Mm-hmm.
God, I shouldn't have started, because now I can't finish. I'm trying by processing this out loud. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking about, and I'm just like, oh, there's a dead end.
I think I think it's. I mean, they both represent, or that's the wrong word. They both portray hell and demons in sort of very different ways. They do sort of both have a fundamentally American Christian perspective on hell and what hell is and sort of the world that represents, but they are sort of different in tone. Doom, like, you're right, Doom is a lot, it's a little bit more slapdash. It's a little bit sillier. There's still a lot of violence, but it's almost slapstick in nature. Diablo is very self-serious, not to a fault, it's just that's the story that's being told. And so, I mean, there is like a little bit of corniness, but it's not, it's still serious about itself. It's not like winking at you or anything. Well, it depends on the game, I guess. But that's also just like a perspective on like these original games, right? Because Doom 3 is a very dark and focused and less colorful game, and still a bit campy in its portrayal of hell, but like trying to take things more seriously. And you compare that to like Diablo 3, where it's like a melodrama soap opera story. That they are very similar in hellishness, but like otherwise, they're very different. Typically, even in their own sort of iterations, they don't really overlap that much. But I don't know why, and I think it's part of what attracts me to Doom. I am sort of weirdly obsessed with portrayal of hell in media. I just find it interesting and sort of revealing sometimes about, like, I don't know, human nature and culture and things. It's like universally, Doom, Diablo, whatever, like, there's a lot of language towards fear. Not that I would say either game is particularly scary, but they have sort of like, imagery that could be scary, I suppose. Scary adjacent. There's a lot of references to pain. People love hell for pain. They're like, damn, it's eternal suffering or whatever.
It's Doom Eternal.
Exactly. And like, I don't know. It's just interesting. I find hell an interesting place. I think it's because there is this sort of, there's an interesting duality to it where like it represents, like I said, like fear for a lot of people, sort of directly. Like people, hell is supposed to be a place where you don't want to go, and so it has to be unappealing, totally. But at the same time, there's this conceit that happens with any sort of afterlife, which is like, it's terrible or whatever, but like there's still some version of awareness that's going on, and so like it's still like with some amount of physical space, there's still like there's no contrast, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like, how bad could bad be if bad is everything? It's sort of a weird question that comes up with depictions of hell, because if hell, and this is not to break up the chat, but this is another part I should have just sped up. I don't know why. You're gonna have to watch me go up this elevator another time, I know, because I think I go back. Well, maybe I don't go back on the other side. I don't remember. I think I do for the ammo though. Anyways, I find hell a very interesting place that people depict, because like, by necessity, you can't make an interesting story if the place is just, like, a thing to avoid because of you want to live a sin-free life or whatever. Like, if you're exploring it as a place where there's, like, hierarchies and, like, what are demons, like, conceptually, what actually is a demon, like, it's hard to say. And so when you have to concretize it in your piece of media, I think if you go too far with the world building, it starts to, like, kind of suck a little bit, because I don't really care about hell itself as, like, a place where guys hang out. I think that's kind of lame, personally.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I think, interestingly, something that early Doom and Diablo have in common is that they both portray hell and they illustrate hell and they sort of make insinuations about what hell is based on the demons that reside there and their purpose and what they do. But because they are, like, gameplay first oriented games for the most part, even though Diablo has has lore and story, it doesn't spend nearly as much time boring the shit out of you as, for instance, some of the Diablo sequels or, like, some of the later Doom games, where they need to, like, dump a bunch of... The only way they can make things bigger is, like, literally widening the area, so they have to explain how hell works and what hell's doing, and, it's just kind of like, who cares?
Yeah. I don't know if this was what I was thinking earlier, but this is a comparable thought I'm having now, at least, is that, like, something that I find interesting about Diablo 1 and most of the Doom franchise is that they do a really good job of portraying hell, not just as a dimension, but also, like, a place inside of your head. Because they both nail the sort of, like, obsession, and it's not, I don't know if obsession is the right word with it, but, like, fixation, where both the player and the character meld. Like you were talking about how Doom Guy may not necessarily want to do all of these things, and yet at the same time he's still doing all of these things, even if he's being puppeteered. What if the wills are the same, right? And I think Doom does a good job of, like, it's so interesting that there's this game that for 30 years a community is still making VODs about. It's still a game about killing those damn demons. It's still a game about doing the same thing over and over and over again, but trying to find new ways to do it. And while that's not necessarily comparable to hell itself, I just feel like if you're going to make a game about hell and killing demons, then you do need to keep it simple. You need to keep it straightforward, but at the same time you need to find new ways iterating ways of doing the same thing. And I feel like Diablo 1 ends with the main character having to turn his mind and body into a prison for Diablo is a really interesting take on the cyclical nature of hell, where hell can't be stopped but hell can be temporarily contained, is interesting, and the cycle doesn't end. And I don't know, I miss that in the Diablo sequels, because the moment that I sort of lost interest in Diablo lore is in Diablo 2, where it actually becomes about stopping that evil once and for all. It has a Terminator 2 ending, right? But then it also gets the Terminator treatment, where they just keep pumping out sequels even though the story ended in Diablo 2. And I don't know, it takes the mystique away. I wanted it to be like Doom Guy, where someone is, even if it's not Doom Guy, is just trapped eternally in having to fight demons. Someone's got to fight these demons, because if nobody fights the demons win. But you also can't exterminate all the demons.
Right, well then you have no game.
Well, yeah.
Like, that's an ending. Well, that's my point, is that is an ending, but they made more games, you know?
They did. There's a Black Soulstone, I guess. And now there's a Lilith and an Inarius.
And this
Sorry,
is what I mean
spoilers.
when I talk about... Yeah, that's fine. I don't know that we're going to cover Diablo. I mean, we might. I certainly don't care about the plot of Diablo. I mean, I'll mention that there's spoilers, I guess, to be nice, but... What was I going to say? Well, this just sort of further proves my point, I think, about Hell being an interesting place, but not like an interesting place to hang out. Like, it's an interesting place in concept. It's sort of interesting to see what people think Hell is and why they think Hell is the way that it is. And you get, like, insights into artists in that way. But I don't think Hell is an interesting place to hang out, and I think artists that are interested in making Hell more hangoutable are kind of missing the point. And I'm comparing this to sort of that idea of hanging out. Like, if you want to play a game and you want to exist in that world for a little while, like, you know, to me, you don't make it more interesting by putting more things in there or more reasons that things happen in there. I don't care about, like, the politics of demons.
Oh, heavens, no.
Any of that shit, you know? Like, you know, I'm interested in the abstract, high-end conceptual stuff. What is a soul? Why do demons want to torment it? You know, what are demons? Are they individuals or are they manifestations? Like, how does this work exactly? Like, I'm interested in that kind of, but I'm not interested in, you know, the demon prince wants to take over Earth because he's evil or whatever. Like, that's just, you know, who cares? That's the plot of everything. It doesn't matter if it's a demon or not. It could be a boat. It could be an alien. It could be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a demon, is my point. If you're not going to look at the source material and abstract on it and be like, why am I choosing this as my perspective? Not just because I'm interested in it, but because I want to tell a story there. Why am I choosing that? And I think you're dead on in some, like, in the Doom comparison with the way that people have created WADs and stuff to this day. There is a sort of obsessive angle to it, but it's also, there's a sort of, like, it represents the endlessness of Hell.
Yes.
Like, there is, like, when we talk about limitless space, like, Hell is supposed to be infinite, and you kind of go, what does infinite suffering really look like? And then it's like, there are thousands of levels of Doom created by multiple people. Like, the amount of hours you would have to invest if you wanted to play all of it is insurmountable. Tim Rogers talks about this a little bit in his review of Doom as well, which is, I think, part of why it's coming to mind. Like, there's so much Doom, like, so much actual content of Doom, and I think, personally speaking, there's a pretty good argument for it all to be canon, or at least a lot of it to be canon, if you just look at it as Doom Guy is somehow immortal, or maybe going to Hell imbues you with the sort of endlessness that Hell itself contains, and you could spend an entire lifetime just running around fucking Doom wads, and, like, that's what Doom Guy presumably did between the end of Doom 64 and the beginning of Doom 2016, or Doom the Dark Ages, I guess, since that's the newest point. Is it's just like, there could be an sort of endless number of shitty adventures that Doom Guy went on. Some were really interesting, good level design. Some was shit.
Somehow myhouse.wad actually happened to Doom Guy somehow.
It's certainly possible. Simpsons Doom happened to Doom Guy. There was some fucked up version of Hell where they all became Simpsons characters. Like, you know, the abstraction is sort of why I think it works. We were talking about comic book stuff a little bit before we started recording, and I think this applies to that as well. Like, just because you know, Doom is more interesting when it's less serious. And that's because you can do so many more weird, silly stuff with it when you're not concerned about, like, fitting into the canon, right? It's like, well, hell is... If we're describing hell as some sort of infinitely large place, why not just have it be absurd when it needs to be, or be serious when it needs to be? Like, that's sort of... When I think about comic books as well, I think about how, like, Batman has been drawn and written by so many different people that there is this weird eternal quality to him now, where I feel like trying to, like, put him into a box about, like some series of, like, canon events is, like, kind of pointless. Because at this point, he's, like, an archetype in the psyche of everyone. He's not even, like, a person anymore. And I want to see a Batman movie that's like that. You know, I don't care about who can be the most soulful Bruce Wayne or whatever. I want to see, like, a story that's about the effects on Batman about being in everyone's psyche.
There have been comics like that. Grant Morrison did a whole arc. He's sort of like you. Well, he's not exactly like you, but he's like what you mentioned, where he's like, you know what, everything's canon in Batman, just like all of it. Fuck it. And so one of his Batman stories involves him having his soul attacked, but because he's so good as Batman, he has a backup ego inside of his subconscious that takes over if his actual ego gets hijacked. So he becomes the Batman of Zira-Nar, which is like a Batman who makes a suit out of, like, colorful trash, which turns out is a reference to a 50s Batman comic where there's an alternate version of Batman who lives in space and, like, runs around on this cosmic moon, who dresses in this exact same costume. And so he's just, it's strange. But then again, if you're going to try to find some way to make all of Batman canon, it's going to get extremely strange.
Yeah, well, it's, you know,
and
I'm not saying that's...
He's also...
I'm not saying sorry, go on.
He's also archetypal in the sense that, like, he sees the DC pantheon as basically the Greek pantheon, where Batman is just Hades and Superman is just Zeus and Wonder Woman is just Athena and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of... even if I wouldn't put a direct parallel like that, I understand totally what he's saying. There is a quality about superhero fiction that at this point is, like, elevated beyond like, necessarily, like, they're not people. They are characters that you tell a story with, and I'm not saying that as, like, a no duh. I mean, like, literally, like, it's hard to conceptualize them as people because they're so, like, you know, the events that are supposed to happen to them. It's very much like Spider-Verse, right? Like, Spider-Verse is also this sort of, like, every Spider-Man is canon, but in a different direction. It's not that everything has happened to one person, but it's like, no, every moment has existed in some sort of multiversal sense. And, like, each individual Spider-Man doesn't have to deal with that, but if you're gonna deconstruct that as a story trope in itself, you know, I think that, like, the Spider-Verse movies, particularly the second one, talk about that in, like, a really interesting abstract way, where it's like rejecting the idea of a story needing to go the way it needs to go because that's what's been established, which is how I feel like, and I mean, you know, I'm not well versed, but that's how I feel about characters like Batman or Superman. Not to call out DC specifically, but they're so archetypal that, like, you know the events of their life, and so you could tell a story anywhere, and as long as you specify sort of where along the character's journey that takes place, people will be able to pick it up and read it and not have any sort of problem getting in, right? And you could tell whatever kind of story you wanted to in that space because we all know how it goes at this point. That's why I appreciated how Spider-Man was introduced into the MCU, because it was like,
oh yeah,
everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Like, we don't need a movie where he gets bit by a spider. He can just be Spider-Man, and that's fine, because we all know how that works. Because we've all... Unfortunately, I speak this way from a very specific point of view, which is someone who has grown up with, like, a dozen iterations of Spider-Man thrown at me from a historical context and from a contemporary context, that by the time I'm an adult and I see Spider-Man again, I'm like, I don't want an introduction. I understand that I'm also coming at this from like a certain perspective of knowing how all this stuff works, but you know, obviously I don't exactly know. Like, how do you there has to be an introductory point for people at some along that journey. There has to be a first Spider-Man that you've seen, and I am taking it for granted a little bit when I'm saying, like, I don't know. Doom is
what you
weird,
mean.
and I don't know that I would necessarily want to introduce someone to Doom with Doom 1, because it's so crufty and weird and not representative of what Doom is now. But at the same time, you wouldn't have the context for where it went if you didn't start here.
Yeah. What you were saying before is in part why I don't really like superhero origin stories.
Yes.
Is even if it's a new superhero and I'm getting a new origin story, like, I didn't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but I kind of didn't want a whole story about them be coming together, and I know that's super easy to sell for a Hollywood film, and that's exactly what they're going to do, but whoo boy was I ready for Guardians 2, where I'm just like, now that we have that out of the way, we can actually tell a story and make it up this time.
If I can make a defense for Guardians, though, although I agree that it's a little bit too origin story-y,
no one knows who they are.
At least not in the case of Star-Lord, they don't bother explaining with anything other than broad strokes where the rest of the characters are in their journey or on their life. Even though they are weird aliens and a raccoon and a tree and whatever, they're not going to stop and explain to you for 40 minutes how this all came to happen, because that would just overstuff everything.
Oh, sure, but what I don't like about it is that they're going to be butting heads the whole time, and I guess I should be upset that
I agree.
Avengers does the same thing, and for some reason I'm okay with it. But I think I understand their conflict better because they already had origin stories, maybe? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I think that part of...
I feel like I understand the conflict better in the Avengers because they've all been established ahead of time. Whereas in Guardians, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't have time to care for them yet, and I have to care through them the same way that they're going to care about each other by getting over each other's conflicts, getting through their conflicts to the other side.
Right. No, I agree. I think that the way in which they go towards it is an origin story in a lot of ways, and that it also does include that sort of stereotype cruftiness that I don't like.
Yeah,
but you know, at the same time, I think they don't dwell on it too much, which is why I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it's better than Deadpool 1. Which spends its whole fucking time establishing who Deadpool is and how he becomes Deadpool, and oh boy do I not care about any of that. And the movie barely cares about it because it introduces him as Deadpool already. And I'm like, you should have just stuck with that, man.
Yeah, nobody cares. Well, okay, you can do the barest minimum where you just kind of explain how the character works. If it's especially for a first movie, like, you know, you have to accept that there might be some people in the audience that are unfamiliar with the character, but it doesn't have to be the whole movie, which is
exactly. That is what bugs me so much about superhero origin stories, is the point of the movie is for them to become the title of the movie at the end, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I agree. You want to start them as the character. This is why Blade is such a great movie.
Hell yeah, dude.
They do, technically speaking, the first scene is the origin of Blade. It's literally him being born. But then they cut to 25 30 years later, he's an adult, and he's like 35 years later. Let's be honest with Wesley Snipes, but he was just Blade.
Yeah.
We didn't have to spend that. Whistler explains, I found him, this, that, the other thing. Oh my, this is my backstory, yada yada. But we don't need to see any of that. We don't need to arduously watch that happen for 30 minutes. You can just have Whistler exposition dump it to Karen at the end of the first act, and then you're like, okay, got it, thumbs up, I understand the premise of the characters now. I understood the premise of the movie, and now you're introducing me to the characters. Got it. We can move on to the next thing. Yep. You have to make sure you have to treat your audience with some respect. They should be able to pick up on what a character archetype is, roll with it until they find out the specifics, and then not have that sort of shatter their expectations of the character. I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but
No, I
that's just how it works.
Exactly.
Especially with superhero fiction in particular.
Yeah, you talk about that. I just talked about Grant Morrison. He wrote All-Star Superman, which is my favorite Superman story, in which it's actually a 12-issue series that is in its own canon, but it does do the Superman origin story, but it does it in one page, and it does it in 4 panels, and it's my favorite superhero introduction to anything ever. It's just that good. And I feel like the definitive edition of Sentinels of the Multiverse does a great job riffing off of that, since the backs of all of the hero cards tell that hero's origin story in 3 panels, and I'm just bada bing, bada boom, there you go, am I right? Just give me that.
My favorite still of all time is the opening to Blade 2.
Dude.
The title sequence.
Yeah,
where
it's
it
so
literally,
good.
it's like this, it's just the camera panning from right to left or left to right.
But you can see that, right? In a comic.
Yeah, and it's just insert shots of okay, this is the time when Whistler found Blade, and this is Blade training, and there's I think there's dialogue, there's a narration of Blade being I'm a fucking badass, this is what happened to me when I was a kid, and I kill vampires, and then they lead in at the end of the narration where he's and this is what's happening in this movie, I'm gonna go find Whistler, and then they kick you right off into the movie. It's one of the best ways to start a film where it's just you're so caught up on everything, and they do it in a really artistic way, where it's not just no shade to Star Wars, but it's not just a title crawl, it's done with visual flair.
Oh yeah,
it's a comic book, so I mean, they're you said, they're sort of emulating how you would do this with panels.
Yes.
You want to take the inspiration and translate that. That's how you adapt stuff. You don't just throw out wholesale what made the original thing good and then apply the you don't take a book and you cut out all this boring book shit to make it a movie. People expect, maybe not so much anymore, because I don't know how many movies are based off books and not comic books, but I feel there's an expectation, if it's a movie based on a book, there's almost an audience expectation that it will come across a little bit slower. You want all the details there. You want to be able to translate them as well as possible to the new medium. You don't want to just ignore them and cut. What's the famous example? The Dark Tower movie. The Stephen King. It's several books worth of content crammed into 90 minutes, and people hate it. Apparently, I haven't seen it, but I haven't read Dark Tower, so
Yeah, that's on my bucket list, but oh boy, am I not ready for that yet.
You got a fucked up bucket list, man.
What's wrong with my bucket list?
No, nothing. I just thought it was kind of a funny way to phrase it, but no, I think I don't know. Maybe
it's supposed to be special stuff, skydive or whatever.
Well, no, I think it's just supposed to be things that you enjoy or are interested in trying, and not just like, you know.
Oh, like something I gotta get past. Oh, I meant the book series, not the movie.
Okay, sorry, that's a misunderstanding on my part. Like, why the fuck would you want to watch that movie? Why is that on your bucket list? That makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I love to watch terrible movies, but I wouldn't necessarily say that any of them... Well, there's maybe a couple that are on my bucket list, but for the most part, it's just, like, vibes-based. I'm like, if I feel like watching a bad movie, I'll just look for the first one that seems appealing.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so here's another pivot.
Okay.
But you were talking earlier about, introducing people to Doom and maybe not starting with Doom 1 because it's crusty. What I love about the Doom franchise is each Doom game has so much, I don't know, girthiness that you could start anywhere in Doom, really. Like, you could start with Doom 1 and you could start with Doom 2, but they're basically the same game.
They are,
and then you could start with Doom 3, which is its own thing. And then you could start with Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, because they both are just jumping off points. Like, there's no...
Yep.
The sequel, this isn't real, and each game has such a different delivery than all of the others.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, it's kind of great how much lasting power they all have, because they're all their own thing. And goddamn, game franchises need to take a lesson from that. Holy shit. Because the Diablo games are like, guess what? You can grind even more in this one and waste more precious hours of your life, and you can give us money to get cool items. And I'm like,
that's my favorite
That
part.
Sucks, man. That really sucks. That's not what I mean by innovation at all.
I love to spend my money on stuff.
Yeah, I love left clicking until a certain colored item falls out of something, and then I can feel accomplished.
Are you telling me that you just discovered now those games are glorified slot machines?
Ugh. I had so much hope after anything post Diablo 2. I have such a connection to both of those games, especially the first one, that I just hate to see. I hate to see that Diablo 2's grinding was so good that that's all that those games became, and that sucks so bad. That was not what should have happened at all. It should have been a beautiful mix of a bunch of different things, and it just turned into, well, slot machines.
Yeah, it's an embarrassing legacy to leave behind.
Yeah, it's all like. I mean, Diablo 4 did do some things I liked more than Diablo 3, but I don't know. It felt like they backpedaled, and they're like, oop, more slot machines, and that's sort of what has kept me from going into the expansion.
Yeah, I have found solace in indie games that take inspiration from these kind of mechanics that don't explicitly want your money. At least they want your money in the sense that they want to be paid for their work, but they aren't greedy. They're not asking for more than what their game is worth. There's a lot of indie games that are inspired by Diablo or embrace the sort of slot machine mentality, but they don't do it for the sake of making you pay, and they also don't even really do it for the sake of grinding, per se. I mean, there are definitely some examples that I have in my head that are for that sake of grinding, but not, they aren't necessarily trying to waste your time. Like, they might accept that you want to grind because you find that enjoyable, and not because, like, it's the only thing that's going to make your build work, so to speak. Which is, I think, the wrong perspective to take.
Oh God, I hate that
kind of game.
I hate it so much. I wish there could be a separation between people who wanted to make builds and, I don't know, anything else, but it's not really the player builder's fault. It's just I hate that Diablo games have been pushed into that, where it's just like...
Well, that's the problem with any game that's based on randomized loot, is like, there's always going to be boundaries that people want to find, and then there's going to be best in slot items that people want to find.
I don't want to deprive people of that. I just
no. I'm just saying that's like a consequence of that kind of game design.
Yeah,
is that people will fall into that mindset. Yeah,
especially developers.
I don't think you can make a game that has like randomized items and not have people that are gonna want to min-max the fun out of it, you know?
Oh yeah. They're gonna.
Even Doom as a game has, to me, some amount of min-maxing in it where I'm thinking to myself, you know, how much ammo is there on this level? And if I don't know where the ammo is, how can I conserve as much ammo as possible? You know, this is a very common, like, I wouldn't call it anxiety per se, but there's a thing that a lot of people have where it's like, you know, they never use the BFG because it's like the best gun in the game. What if I don't get the ammo for it? I'll just never use it instead. And it's like, you know, that is min-maxing the fun out of it because you're like, I need to save it for boss fights only. And then meanwhile, you could probably use it a lot more than you think. I mean, there's some interesting player psychology there, but I think for the most part, it exists because of, like, players themselves having issues with, not randomness, but, like, lack of knowledge. And then when you get the knowledge, then it becomes, a whole other min-max deal of, like, okay, well, I know I can use the BFG this many times in this level because there's that much cell ammo. And it's like, that's also, I could see that being not fun as well, but, you know, player psychology, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, players are gonna play.
They're gonna fuck up your game.
They are gonna fuck up your game.
If you're a game developer and you make a game, the players are gonna fuck it up.
They sure are.
But that's kind of the point, I guess. I blinked and we're in Wolfenstein.
Wow, that's a very poignant sentence in our times.
It's very true. I wonder how YouTube is going to respond to all this imagery.
Yeah, this ought to be exciting. Yeah. YouTube doesn't want you to upset the fascists.
That's true. In addition to, like, changing the Red Cross logo in future ports, I think, do they also censor all this stuff?
Yes.
I think they might.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Which I understand, I guess. I mean, I guess.
I understand
the game is illustrating that this is bad and not celebrating it.
Oh, but, certainly. I don't know. It may be that I'm misunderstanding it, but I understand why they did it in the sense that if someone's playing Doom and they stumble into a secret level that has a bunch of Nazi propaganda all over it.
They might not know, sure.
Yeah, that might be a bit much.
Connection.
But, of course, Wolfenstein itself, like, should not be censored.
Yeah, yes and no. I understand what you mean. It depends.
Unless there's stuff I'm missing that should definitely be censored.
Well, no, I'm just saying. No, I'm saying the word "should" is sort of it's pulling interesting weight because, you know, for instance, in Germany, it's illegal to display this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are making a game, if you're making a Wolfenstein game and you're releasing it in Germany, necessarily it has to be censored if you want to release it there. That is a different part of the reason why I was sort of stopping myself before I ultimately did decide to say it was because, like, should is pulling an interesting amount of weight in that concept. Should it be illegal? I don't know. Like, that's really hard to say.
Right.
Is it illegal in some places? Yes, and it should certainly be followed if it is.
No, I get what you're saying. I had considered the German connection, ironically. German connection.
And so that's part of why, like, so as far as I understand, I have played the new Wolfenstein games. There is swastikas and stuff, like overt imagery in the games, but I know that they're censored in Germany. But I think for every release of like Doom or like the old Wolfenstein games, I think those are all just censored across the board. Like obviously they're censored in German, in the German versions of the games, but I think also the US re-releases might also, and just like every language version, I think is also censored. Just because, like, I don't know, they don't want to preserve the graphics or update, like, I don't know what the point is exactly. It's just an interesting thing. Now, you can't... this is like the worst argument ever. You can't show a swastika, but you can show a guy turning into giblets. That's interesting.
Alright.
Like, there's the idea of responsibility on the viewer's part, where it's like, we don't think you're smart enough to not be propagandized at, but showing you absurd violence and gore is not propaganda. There's no political message that could be inferred by that.
Not at all.
This is taking a turn, I fear.
Do you want to redo a section?
No, we're not going to redo it, certainly. It's just... I mean, it's unavoidable. We're here. We have to talk about it, yeah. I suppose the minimum I will do that should be obvious is I do not condone fascism.
No, it's bad.
Obviously, and by releasing this video, I am not condoning... I'm not even necessarily condoning its use in art, per se. I am just... consider me a neutral party observer that is playing this game and in a semi-journalistic kind of tone, showing it to the audience in as objective a way as possible. Okay, I've covered my base. I'm good.
Do you need me to say anything?
No. I'm not taking it that seriously, because I think anybody with a brain understands that we're just playing Doom.
Yes.
It's really not that serious to play Wolfenstein levels in Doom. People can't point at this. I'm always trying to cover my ass for no reason. I don't know. Again, I just said you have to be stupid not to understand what's happening in the video. So I don't know why I'm even trying to cover my ass in any way, because, like I said, you'd have to be stupid. I guess I'm covering my ass because I'm envisioning bad faith actors trying to point a finger at me, and I'm sort of preemptively trying to get in front of that, which I don't need to do because nobody's going to watch this video.
I was going to say no one's going to watch this.
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm so fucking concerned about.
A cyber demon in Wolfenstein?
Yeah, that's not canon.
That's not canon.
I mean, there were already pinkies in place of the dogs, so... Canon be gone, I suppose.
Are these actual Wolfenstein levels?
Yeah, the previous level that we just did is the first level of Wolfenstein 3D, and this is, I believe, the first boss fight of the first episode of Wolfenstein 3D. It has been a minute since I have played Wolfenstein 3D. This level, I remember playing it, but I don't remember if it's the first episode. I think it is. Yeah, I never finished it, by the way, so it must be. But the first level, I know for sure. Like, that one I played enough times that I recognize it. And for some reason, you have to kill Commander Keen 4 times to leave the level.
Which is, I think, that was aptly disturbing.
Yeah, that was included because Adrian Carmack sort of resented doing the art for the Commander Keen games. He was like, he didn't want to do any of that kiddie shit. He wanted to...
Demons.
Real tough demons and hell stuff, and so he was just getting his revenge on Commander Keen. for him having to work on it for so long, even though
Commander Keen a child.
Yes.
That's what I find so disturbing about the ending of that level.
I mean, it is weird. He's also a cartoon character, so I mean, it's not like as a depiction, it's not that horrifying, I suppose. It is disturbing, you're not wrong, but its portrayal is very cartoon. So it's not, I'm shocked that there hasn't been like a creepypasta written about that. Did you know the real reason why you kill Commander Keen is because if I don't know. I'm bad at spitballing this, so I'm not going anywhere.
Commander Keen's soul was locked inside
Yes,
Doom.
Thank you.
So when you kill Commander Keen, you kill the real Commander Keen.
Yeah. There's real children's souls tied to the game.
Commander Keen's appearance in Doom 2 is canon.
Commander Keen goes to hell at the end of the Keen series, where he's eternally tortured by getting shot by Doom Guy over and over again. That's so dumb. I love it.
So dumb it could be true.
It's very creepypasta-esque, like, I don't know, just like putting... It's like Five Nights at Freddy's, kind of. It's like the putting the horror thing in the child-friendly thing, and mixing them together. Very, very of our times horror media. I think that's why my mind went to creepypasta. I'm like, it's the perfect dichotomy. Oh, creepypasta. I love stupid garbage. There needs to be more of it.
There's a lot of stupid garbage creepypasta.
There is. Well, that's like, I would almost say like all of it is. But like like we were talking about self-awareness before, which I now can't remember if that was part of the recorded conversation or not, but I'm not going to worry about it. Like, you have to be pretty self-aware to make a good creepypasta, which means that you kind of know that the medium that you're putting yourself in is like notorious for having garbage in it.
This is true.
So you do have to appeal to the garbage fanatics in order to make it work, I think. Maybe I'm inaccurate in that statement, but I feel like a lot of them, there's an element to it where...
Well, a lot of creepypasta is no budget.
Well, sure, there's
which
that
means it's either going to be garbage, or you really have to work within some serious constraints.
Yeah, but I'm even, like, just talking specifically about, like, writing, for instance, where, like, you can write a really good story with no budget, but many of them don't. And the ones that do, like, it's impressive because you kind of have to exist within a space where, other people aren't taking it very seriously or doing a very good job. Which just sets certain expectations out of your audience. Which is maybe honestly why some creepypasta takes off, because you expect it to be garbage, and so when it turns out to be pretty good, it like elevates it almost above its status, and then it becomes like a worldwide phenomenon. Like, Slender Man is interesting, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that it is necessarily interesting enough to end up in the place that it ended up as sort of a cultural touchstone, you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm all kinds of ready.
I feel like Slender Man can only exist as a cultural touchstone because we have, like, Sonic.exe, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Slender Man is interesting, but he's more interesting because a bunch of people were, exposing themselves to garbage on a daily basis, and then when something cool came out, they were like, holy shit. And then they wouldn't shut up about it because it was, like, actually good. No offense to Sonic.exe, obviously. That's not garbage.
Don't offend Sonic.exe, he'll fucking leap out of my cartridge or whatever and kill me.
Yeah. He's, hyper-realistic blood coming out of his eyes or whatever. Fuck.
Fucking god-awful.
This has gotta probably... I hate to, I would hate to change the mood, but I feel like this has gotta be one of our best sessions in a long time.
Mother Dilfies.
Oh, Mother Dilfies is crazy, dude.
That goes hard. I would read Mother Dilfies. I would go down some rabbit holes for Mother Dilfies.
Oh, man. I haven't thought about Mother Horse Eyes in a long time.
Me either.
That's a callback into half.
Yeah. That's just pretty old now. That's like 7 years old, if not more.
It is pretty old now. It's pretty good, I think. I mean, it starts to... Once it turns into a YA novel, that's when I stopped reading. But, like, the early stuff's really good.
Yeah, the very, like, Annihilation-esque weird shit.
Yeah, when it starts to... Yeah, that stuff's really cool. I like all the descriptions. But when it turns into... There's like a girl who's like in her bed, or there's like VR. I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't know what's going on. I'm good. I've read enough that's been really cool, and I don't need the rest of it. Maybe I'll go back and read it now that we're talking about it and see if it goes anywhere interesting.
It seems kind of, I don't know, like esoteric, I guess. Like it's all scattered everywhere, so it's kind of hard to find.
Yes. It is,
and then you have to wonder what's canon and what's not, what's legitimate and what's not.
See, this is why, again, I'm interested in sort of the individual stories and set pieces, but like once there's a big world building lore dump thing, I'm like, okay, this was cool when you were talking about like meat caves or whatever, and dudes like flying apart at the seams.
Yeah, eyeballs flying around.
Weird, creepy journal stuff where it's like there's like a creepy demon thing. Like, this is cool.
Yeah, one of my favorite...
And then it all has to get connected and stuff, whatever.
One of my favorite reading creepypastas was Dianea House. And I kind of fear for that one, because some of it, I think, was on MySpace. And so I hope that some people have, like, internet archived it and, like...
Probably,
found some way to, like, retain the original story, because that was a really fun rabbit hole to go down. It has a very simple start, a very, like, spooky house start, and then it goes into some wild conspiracy places where I'm just like, damn. This was just a fun read.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that one. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, Dianea House is cool.
To be honest, I don't read that many creepypastas, but I am aware of them.
I don't know, like, SCP Vault doesn't really interest me. No. Does it interest you? Okay. I thought I was the only person on the planet, because everyone, like, goes fucking apeshit goo-goo nuts about...
SCP is... I don't know how to put this in a way that's not gonna sound like gobbledygook, but it's the only way that I can think to say it. It's like Zoomer Core before Zoomers were a thing.
It's Zoomer Core for Zoomers who never discovered, like, Men in Black.
Sort of, yeah. But it's not for Zoomers, because SCP was popular when I was a teenager, which means that it is for millennials. But the formatting is, like, so, for lack of a better word, very ADHD. Like, the fact that you can go to whatever page you want, and, like, there's 1,000 stories that all go in different directions. Like, it's really interesting creatively, but it's, like, very Zoomer core because it makes me think of, like, I don't know, like the back rooms or something.
Yeah.
Where the back rooms is like very SCP, or I guess the other way around. I don't know. Well, I guess technically SCP came first, but like, if that makes any sense, where I see the back rooms as like very Zoomer coded. It's like, you know, no clipping out of reality. Like, is a very like, I'm 12 and I play Gary's Mod.
I know the fact they call it no clipping like makes me cringe internally.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
And then
so,
I
like,
skibbity rizzed out of reality.
And so SCP to me it falls into a very similar place. I don't know if you remember these, but there were the types of creepypastas where it was like, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like, it was like 99 somethings, and there were like all these different, there were like these ancient relics or something, and each story was like one of them, and it would describe like, it was very, do you remember like the elevator game? It's like very similar to that, where there were like these instructions about like how to do something. It's like, if you want to get to this location, you have to, you know, the elevator game is like, you have to hit all these buttons in a certain order, and then like it'll take you to a floor that is hell or something, or whatever. And then like there was an older series of stories that were very similar to SCP in that they were all connected, but they were in that vein where it was like, you have to travel to this location and you have to do these things, and then when you do, you know, and it reminds me of SCP because like each one was very different from the last, but then also you could tell that like there's a form of storytelling going on here that's like very indirect. Like, they want to explore this thing, but they also want to phrase it like in the form of a journal entry, or in the SCP's case, it's like in form of documents. So it's like there's like a formatting thing to it. I don't know. I just find creepypasta from that era to be very interesting because they were playing with formats so much, and now I feel like it's really limited in its perspective, sort of. At least insofar as analog horror is concerned, where it all kind of feels the same.
Fucking machine animal horror, dude. Fucking kill me.
Yeah, they're all sort of pulling from
Five Nights at Freddy Got Fingered.
There's the Five Nights at Freddy Got Fingered thing. But then there's also, like, I don't know, like, what was a really popular one? The Mandela Catalog, and then, like, everybody was copying that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Mandela Catalog was, like, okay. I don't know.
It was pretty mid, if you ask me. But again, it's not for me. It's for someone who's 17 years old.
People find really bad art really scary now.
Yes.
I'm like, that doesn't look...
art is...
It's like an MS Paint stick figure, and people are shitting their pants over it.
Yes. It's not scary if you're, like, an adult. And it's also... it's also just, like, not... I don't know. Like you spoke to, there's a lot of amateurishness, and I don't mean this necessarily in a bad way. It's just like, by necessity, if you're making something independently and cheaply, and chances are you're pretty young as well, then, like, yeah, it's gonna be kind of flawed and not necessarily treading new ground or always presenting interesting new ideas. Although I will say, as long as you have one good, interesting idea that you can lean on, that's the only reason why any of this stuff got popular at all is because they had at least one good idea that hit the public eye the right way. It doesn't speak to the quality necessarily, but it is noteworthy in being seen. I'm just watching Doom now. I forgot what was going on. We were talking about creepypasta for some reason.
How did we get here?
I appreciate it. I don't know how to make these videos anymore. Just happy we're talking about something.
Ben drowned? More like Dilf drowned.
I don't get that one.
I just like putting Dilf in things these days.
That's fair. Okay.
Mother Dilf Eyes was just a happy accident.
Yes, Mother Dilf Eyes hits crazy. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, really. Dilf Eyes.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but I appreciate it at least for some reason. Dilf Drowned is just depressing.
Dilphinea House.
That one's pretty good too.
You gotta be careful where you place the Dilf. The Dilf is the key.
Dilf placement's very important.
My opening maneuver in chess is the Dilf placement. I'm glad we're here now. This is the cozy spot.
Yeah, Doom the Dilf ages.
This is the cheesecake in the kitchen in Golden Girls moment.
Oh hell yeah!
This is what we really watch Golden Girls for.
You're damn right.
We're waiting for that part where they're like, "Man, this long day sucked ass," but I got cheesecake, and they're like, "Oh shit, Dorothy's got cheesecake! Holy fuck!"
Cheesecake. They're having some sort of crisis of faith moment. They can't sleep.
No.
The girls are up. They got the cheesecake out, and they're gonna. Rose is gonna tell some story about
growing up on the farm or whatever.
Yeah, growing up on the farm. And the weird Swedish culture that she's from, and then, Sophia's gonna be like, "I'm gonna kill you," and you're like, "Whoa, calm down, Grandma." Dorothy's gonna side eye her.
And Blanche is gonna be like, "Baby, I'll fuck that guy after all."
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, that cheesecake is magic. Saves the day.
Fuck. I love the Golden Girls, dude. That shit goes hard.
Apparently, the construction of the 2nd edition D&D party, Fighter, Cleric, Mage, and Thief, was based on the Golden Girls.
Ooh, which one is which? Let's see. I want to say Rose is maybe the Cleric because she's the nicest one.
Yes, Rose is definitely Cleric. I believe Blanche is Thief because she can swindle.
That makes sense. Yeah. She steals the hearts of every older man.
Dorothy is Mage, but I can't remember why. But Sophia is Fighter.
That makes sense. No, not only does it make sense for Dorothy, I mean, the wizard is the only one left in that core 4, but it also does make sense, I feel like, because she is the smartest of the group, and she is also, sort of like the glass cannon in the build. She's probably highest DPS, but she could get taken out really easily.
Yeah.
For sure. Sophia is like burst damage, and Blanche is also burst damage, but they don't have high DPS, but they can do really strong hits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like Dorothy probably gets settled with Mage just because she probably is the overthinker, but at the same time, she's always the one developing plans for all of them because they're all individually, they're all pretty single-minded, but Dorothy knows how to bring them all together. She knows how to do the crowd control business.
She is for sure the Leonardo.
Yes, she is the Cyclops.
I want to say, so she's the Leonardo. And Sophia is definitely the Wrath. I think Rose, that has to make Rose Michelangelo. I just don't feel like Donatello and Blanche mix, though. So maybe Mikey is Blanche and Rose is Donatello? That makes more sense. But Rose isn't smart.
No. No, but
it's not a 1-to-1.
Rose isn't smart, but she's emotionally smart. You never want anything bad to happen to Rose. Rose wants everyone to feel better.
Yes, but
even if she's bad at it.
She is. Yes, unfortunately, she is very naive, though, so she gets taken advantage of.
Yeah. Yeah, none of them are inventors, so they don't really fit the bill.
No. No, but even just in the vibes, like the sibling vibes, I don't know that it quite fits. Like, she's definitely more of a Mikey, and I guess that means that Blanche has to be Donatello, but Blanche isn't known for her smarts. Although I suppose you could like replace knowing technology with knowing sex, and then it's like, okay, then it lines up better.
Fuck, I wish the Golden Girls were still alive so we get a fucking kick-ass Ninja Turtles Golden Girls crossover.
Hell yeah, dude, I would watch it.
That'd be fucking awesome. Hell yeah.
I do
Fuck,
love,
man.
there are...
Can you just imagine the Foot, like, ringing their doorbell, and then Dorothy answering the door and being like, no, you've got the wrong address. And then it just turns into hijinks after that.
How did they even end up in Miami?
The Ninja Turtles fucking come out of their basement because they went through the wrong sewer. Great.
Oh, yes, dude. Lance wants the big green dick.
Fuck, dude. I kind of want to do like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Golden Girls now, or like Golden Girls throughout the eras of fiction meet different characters.
There was, unfortunately, it's canceled now. I'll have to send you the link to this after the show, and I'll include it in the description, maybe, if I can remember to. There was someone that was working on a Golden Girls RPG.
Oh, dude, yes.
That did, unfortunately, they stopped working on it. I believe they canceled it.
Damn.
But, like, it was like a JRPG style where, like, you walk around the town, you get into random turn-based fights as the Golden Girls. It would have been glorious had it come out. So it's funny that you bring up the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen thing, though. I find isn't exactly connected, but part of the reason I bring up the Ninja Turtles is that I find that there are certain archetypes that fit, like when you have an ensemble of certain sizes, like you can almost kind of start to chunk them together.
Yeah.
And part of that's just storytelling in general. You need certain archetypes to sort of like fit roles. But like, look at, you got Hank Hill, Dale, Boomhauer, and Bill. Like, when you have the foursome, like you can compare them to other foursomes, and you can be like, there's more similarities than there are differences. It's just kind of funny. And I think this is also true if you have like certain, it has to be small, it has to be D&D party sized, anywhere from like, you can have duos, you can have how duos work, and you can have 3 people, and you can have like the tri relationship thing going on. I think once you get to 5, that's sort of the upper limit, and anything beyond that is like, you don't really have a dynamic at that point. I mean, you have individual dynamics, but they're not as easily put into archetypes, I guess. I mean, did you know that the original plan for Doom 1 was to have 4 playable characters that would each have different stats?
Damn, man. Legend of Zelda Doom's Awakening, or whatever. Doom 4 Swords. 4 Dooms.
Exactly. The Golden Girls of Doom. There would have been 4. You could have compared them. Something could have happened, but instead, John Romero said, I don't care about that. I want to make a game where you run fast and shoot demons. Get this nerd shit out of my game. And Tom Hall quit. That's not what happened.
Such a love-hate with John Romero. I hate that he knows exactly what he's talking about and what's going to work. I'm just the type of person who hates to see someone like Tom Hall who makes like a bazillion word Bible, and Romero just like gets a whiff of it and he's like, ugh, and throws it out the window. It's like, oh shit, we're done.
We are done.
Anyway, I can't believe I just ended by slamming John Romero. John Romero, if you're listening to this, you're doing great, bud.
We love John Romero in this household. I am a John Romero fan. Has he taken some missteps in his career? Sure, but who hasn't? And he seems like a stand-up guy, so.
I do. I'm a John Romero fan. I just, oh, God. those based creators, they can just drive me up the wall.